All right. Well, welcome everybody to this month's Texas Statewide Recovery Housing meeting. I am Jason Howell. I'm the Executive Director of Recovery People. Let's take a look at today's agenda real quick. As you just got the notification on your screen, I am recording this. If that makes you feel uncomfortable, please turn your camera off. The intent of us recording this is so that we can share it with everybody here for you to review, as well as those who wanted to attend but couldn't attend today. If you remember from last month, we took a poll as to what topics that this community want to hear about. And one of the top topics was medication-assisted treatment within recovery housing. And fortunately, we've got some experts on that topic that we invited here today. They'll tell you more about Project Homes, which is a state-funded project. We've got Dr. Michael Wilkerson, which is one of the project principal investigators for the research. He is with UTHealth Houston. And we have two individuals from Austin Serenity, which is one of the recovery homes that is actually doing the work. So we'll hear from Brandon and Bryan and hear their lived experience and wisdom. After some Q&A, after the presentation and Q&A, we'll reserve a little time to talk about some exciting announcements coming up, so some other events that you may be interested in, and then talk about next month's session. All right, let me let some more folks in. And if there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, Mike, and turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I am going to jump in and share my screen. So I am really excited to talk with you today. Just if you guys don't mind, I'm going to do a small shameless plug before I get into my dissertation, because I am incredibly proud of our team. And one member of our team, who some of you may know, Sierra Casteda Del Martel, is defending her dissertation this Friday. And I suspect there are folks on the call who would love to support and cheer Sierra. So Sierra, I realize I'm putting you on the spot, but suck it up. So Sierra has been doing tremendous research with recovery coaches and how to create a more sustainable workforce. And so if you want to learn more about that, I just put the information in the chat, and you are welcome to listen in to her defense. Sierra, if that made you uncomfortable, get used to being uncomfortable as faculty. So I'm proud of you. The other thing is I want to give a shout out. Dr. Gallardo is with us today. She is also a member of this team. So I am presenting in part some of the data that she has collected. So I wanted to give a shout out to her as well. And with that, I'm going to jump into everything. So Project Homes is a state-funded project, like Jason mentioned. It is with a Texas Targeted Opioid Response. And the views that we talk about here are not necessarily those of HHSC or the U.S. government. That is our disclaimer. And I will tell you that we have been blessed to work with amazing community partners on this project, including Recovery People. So this project, even though I'm doing the presentation, really, it is a collaboration with about 12 different community partners. It's really been a blessing to do. What I'm going to do is provide a brief overview of MOUD. I'm not going to get into the details of it, just a really quick snapshot. Then I'm going to talk about our project, and then I'm really going to invite Brandon and Bryan to talk about their experience living and working in these MOUD-based recovery homes. So a little bit about MOUD. Really quickly, for those of you who don't know, MOUD, medications for an opioid use disorder, is sort of becoming a preferred term in the industry over MAT, medication-assisted treatment. And so if you're unfamiliar with the term MOUD, it's the equivalent of MAT. It's the same term, essentially. We've just moved our language a bit. There are different sort of medications that support people with an opioid use disorder. Vivitrol has also been cross-used for alcohol. And there is work in place. I'm not really prepared to talk about it necessarily today, but there is research in place to develop medications for people with methamphetamine or other stimulants. So that's exciting. Whenever that does come live, that'll be coming down the pike, just so you're aware. But today we are really thinking about methadone, bupe, and naltrexone. Those are really the medications we're thinking about today. One of the things that I think is really important when we have this discussion is to recognize that when someone begins MOUD, we really are thinking about long-term use, right? So in our work, we've heard stories about some treatment centers that will try to put folks on Suboxone and then taper them off before they leave, or providers who, recovery support service providers who will try to encourage someone to taper off their MOUD. But I would suggest that that's not best practice. When someone begins MOUD, outcomes are best when they are on it for a minimum of 1 year. And that's a minimum of 1 year. Oftentimes, it's longer is better, right? But if you look, there's various slides up here, but I want to bring your attention to what's in orange down at the bottom. When we look at all-cause mortality for people with an opioid use disorder, persons who are on MOUD for less than 1 year are 5 times more likely to have to die, right, from an opioid use disorder versus those who are on MOUD for at least a year. So it is a critical tool in our treatment and recovery arsenal. The other thing that's important to know, and this is something that probably most of the folks in this room are very familiar with, is that recovery residences support folks who are in recovery. And the general guidance that we have about how long someone should be in a recovery residence is a minimum of 6 months. And again, that's a minimum. Longer is usually better, right? And so you put those two together, and what we're talking about is a situation in which we want folks to be housed in a recovery residence for a minimum of 6 months and on MOUD for a minimum of a year. So you're looking at developing a recovery continuum where you are working with someone for a minimum of a year to ensure that they are safely stabilizing their recovery, right? If you put the two together. And so I think that's an important message that we want to get out. Certainly we know that, and we see with our own houses, that there are people who leave earlier than 6 months for a number of good reasons, right? But in general, the data would suggest, and we're collecting data specifically on MOUD recovery residences to give a more articulate recommendation. But at the moment, when we look at the available data, it would seem that that's the recommendation we want to do. We want to encourage folks who move into our homes to stay a minimum of 6 months and plan to be on MOUD for at least a year. So let's talk about Project Homes. So Project Homes is an amazing, amazing project that I am both humbled and blessed to be a part of it. We have been able to enter this space at a time in which a number of providers were perhaps a little hesitant to enter into the recovery residence MOUD space, or they were just a little not quite ready to do it, perhaps at the time when we started formulating this project about 3 years ago. We started talking about this around 4 years ago, and it launched about 1.5 years ago. And so it's been amazing and exciting to see how things have progressed and changed, but we know that there is still some hesitation to provide housing for folks on MOUD. And that's really what we want to talk about today, is to reduce that anxiety and normalize the experience of running a MOUD recovery residence. We have 14 homes across the state of Texas that we are funding through this project. We have 2 homes in Midland, Texas. And the beautiful part about the Midland homes, and in a moment I'll talk about our San Angelo homes, is that we're able to serve folks with children. And so Thriving United in Midland, Texas is running a level 3 recovery residence, and they accept women with children of all ages. So if you have a pregnant woman or a woman with children in junior high or high school, there may be space for them at Thriving if they are willing and able to go up there. Similarly, well, I'll talk about San Angelo in a minute. They're on a different slide. In Austin, we have Austin Serenity. We have 2 women's homes and 2 men's homes. At this time, they don't accept children. Our homes that accept children are in Midland and San Angelo. But incredible services are happening at Austin Serenity. And we're going to hear more about the great work happening there soon. San Angelo, I kind of already told you about this, but San Angelo is operating 2 homes for us. One of those homes accepts pregnant women and children up to 1 year of age. And so they have a really nice facility that has a little, like all the rooms have baby beds in them. And it's just a really great feel when you walk into that women's home to see how they're serving children there and people in recovery. In Houston, we have 4 homes, 2 serving men and 2 serving women. All of our homes have their own culture, and they're all really just beautiful in their own way. I encourage you to get to know our housing providers if you're interested in learning more about the services they offer and the unique culture that they each represent. El Paso has 2 homes. We have, if you guys know Ben Bass's team, we've got 1 men's and 1 women's home in El Paso. If you're familiar with their homes, you might know that they're a little bit unique in their design. So where our other homes are actually what you would think of as a traditional house, our El Paso homes are unique in that they have taken over larger facilities, and they have floors and or wings that actually allows them to integrate a bit of a step-down model, which is really a really nice thing for their residents. And we have beds in each of those facilities. So those are our homes and our partners. In addition to these folks, our partners, we already talked about Recovery People, who is providing certification. All of our homes are NAR certified homes. So through the good work of Colin and Jason, through Recovery People's TRON, Texas Recovery Oriented Housing Network, they are able to certify all of our homes. In addition, we have community partners in Houston and Austin who are providing recovery coaching to some of our homes. So we work with Communities for Recovery out of Austin, and in Houston, the Montrose Center and Santa Maria. So all of these folks have been tremendous partners, and we couldn't make this project happen without them. So I'm not going to get into all of our findings. We have been doing a tremendous amount of data collection, but I do want to share just a snapshot of some of the interview data that we've been collecting. Dr. Gallardo and Dr. McCurdy have been leading our team through doing interviews at all 14 of our houses. And we've interviewed at this point, over 76 individuals who are living in our residences. And a few themes have emerged that I think are worth sharing and relevant to today's conversation about normalizing MOUD in the recovery residence space. The first is that these homes really do fill a gap in services. Unfortunately, folks who are on MOUD sometimes do experience discrimination from other folks in recovery, right? There are folks who tell them that because they're on MOUD, that they are not abstinent. And at times that can make folks feel unsafe in their recovery journey, right? And sometimes we hear stories where folks are being secretive to even their sponsor, and it's not something that we want to see happen, right? And so one of the beautiful opportunities of these is that it provides folks a space where they don't have to be secretive or hide. And here's a quote on the right-hand side to illustrate that idea. So this is one of our female residents, and she said, "I think it's awesome because years ago when I was on Suboxone, no one would take me. There was a stigma that if you're using methadone or Suboxone, you're still getting high and you're not sober. So I ran into let me be on my meds. So I think by having a home that allows you to be on your meds, that it's awesome. It's helped me so much because I need this medication. I need it to be right now. Maybe not for the rest of my life, but I need it for right now. So I'm grateful I'm grateful that they allow us to live here and be on our meds." And this is a common response that we hear from so many residents in our interviews. A second related theme is that it provides a space where they're not judged. It provides a space that is accepting and safe, and it provides commonality, right? We all know the recovery residences are based on this social recovery model. And so you've got a house that is full of folks who have this common experience and are going down a similar journey. And so this is a couple of different quotes that I wanted to highlight. Right. We had a gentleman say, "This has helped more than anything else in my life. Being here is saving my life because I've been given an opportunity where I'm not stigmatized because of my use of opiates or my treatment thereof with medication." And we had a young woman say, "It's kind of like you fight the stigma together instead of alone." And I love that second quote. I think that that's so powerful. And I think that that speaks to how the recovery model in these recovery residents is manifesting itself among the residents. Similarly, it allows folks to have a more authentic recovery experience, in part because they don't have to hide, right? So these themes are interrelated. These are interwoven themes, but I really think it's important to talk about all of them, right? Because if you can feel authentic in your recovery, you're likely to have a better recovery outcome, right? We all know that. And so this shared experience of taking MOUD has facilitated some authentic connections between the residents because they don't have to hide. And so just highlighting over here a couple of important quotes. We had a resident, a Hispanic woman, tell us, "It's just like I don't feel judged because everybody here knows what I went through. They went through the same thing." And then down below, we had a 33-year-old woman saying that just the fact that there's nobody telling me that I'm not sober because I'm taking a medication is extremely helpful. The next theme that emerged, but again, related theme, is that these homes foster connections among people who are using MOUD. And so we really are seeing through our observations and our interviews, we go to these homes and do site visits every few months, and we do these interviews, and we really are seeing the social model just manifesting in so many ways. And I think that that's really what I'm trying to illustrate with these quotes. Because what we see is that oftentimes folks who are on MOUD can feel that they're isolated, and these recovery residences remove that isolation. So again, here's another quote. This one's from a 44-year-old woman who said that they feel like they're part of a community, a sober living community, where you're not the only one. And other traditional say that 5 times fast. In other traditional 12-step programs, a lot of them don't consider us clean. Like, should I have a clean date, which can feel really lonely. So this kind of gives you our own little trusted group where we believe that in fact we are sober and we're living happy and productive lives. And so in conclusion, I think what we're seeing is that these MOUD-friendly recovery residences offer a safe environment where these residents can build authentic connections with others who are on MOUD as part of their recovery journey. And it's important, and I think Brandon and Bryan are going to get into this in a moment, to recognize that these are just normal homes where folks just happen to be taking MOUD. And I think that that's a really important message, is because if someone in this call has any sort of anxiety or fear about accepting folks on MOUD into their homes, they shouldn't. We have seen tremendous positive outcomes and experiences happening in these homes. I'm not sharing the quant data. We're still collecting the quantitative data, so we're not ready to share that yet. But just the qualitative data, the interview data, and the observations that we're doing, it has been really powerful to observe and watch what is happening in these houses. So what do we need to do going forward? Well, we need more MOUD supportive spaces in recovery. And I think there's an important piece here, because just having a MOUD tolerant home is not okay. And that is really, really, really important, you guys, to drive home. If you are going to accept folks on MOUD into your house, you have to fully accept folks on MOUD into your house. And you have to eliminate any stigma and have a plan to intervene if you hear stigmatizing comments. And you need to ensure that whether you are doing pill counts or whether you are doing any other protocols, that Brian's going to give you some examples of protocols here in a moment to minimize concerns about diversion. However you do it, you need to do it in a way that is not stigmatizing. And you need to check your own self to make sure that you're not just tolerant of people in MOUD, but you are fully embracing, you are supporting every aspect of their recovery. Because if you can do that, then you're going to see amazing things happening with the folks living in your homes. And I truly believe that just over the observations that we've seen in the past year and a half. I want to share with you our website so that if you want to learn more about our project, or if you have someone that you come across who maybe isn't a good fit for your home, but perhaps they're a good fit for one of ours, that you could always link and refer that person in. So this is our website, and you can reach it. I'll pop it into the chat, but you can reach it by going to go.uth.edu/homes. There you go. I'll just pop that in. And so the website, just really quickly, this is a landing page where it just tells you a little bit about our homes. It gives you a little bit of basic information about MAR, which is medication-assisted recovery. So it's just people who are using MOUD as part of the recovery journey. Here is a video where one of my colleagues, Cheryl McCurdy, who's co-leading the study with me, Dr. McCurdy is talking about this is when the project first opened and why we believe it's important. This was actually filmed in one of our Houston homes. And then down here at the bottom, you can see the location of the homes. And if you have someone who would like more information about our homes, they can complete this, and a member of our team will contact them and screen them into the home. So that's a little bit about our website. I will share this PowerPoint with Jason so that he can share it more broadly. But that's just a quick overview of the project, just so you know who we are and what we're doing. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon.
All right, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that presentation. Hi, everyone. My name is Brandon Strand. I am currently the house manager for Serenity in Austin, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my experience through coming into this program. Real quick before, so how much time do I have, just so I can kind of keep this on track?
We're only at the bottom of the hour, so we have 30 minutes total. So I think it's important for you to share your lived experience and opinions. So take the time you need.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. So let me see here. So a little bit about myself. I am currently 33 years old. I'm from San Diego, California. And I have a lot of lived experience in recovery, trying to get sober. I have been a chronic relapser. I have been addicted to heroin for 16 plus years. And this has not been the first recovery residence that I've been through. This has not been the first time that I have tried to be on MOUD or MAT treatment before. I have attempted numerous times and been through a lot of different rehab programs, a lot of different sober living. So the point I'm trying to nail in here is I have a lot of lived experience. And what happened is I was at I can't remember the name of the hospital, Del Seaton Medical Center. I was hospitalized there in urgent care for about 3 weeks. And when I was in the hospital, I was recommended this program called Austin Serenity because I was leaving that hospital with a short supply of Suboxone for maintenance because they knew of my extensive opiate use disorder. And when they were telling me about this program, they're like, "Oh yeah, this and that." It all sounded really too good to be true. I was really hopeful to get into it, but I wasn't really too sure at that point. When I did get into the program, I still was, a little bit. Everything sounded too good to be true, right? I've had many different circumstances coming into a treatment facility, sober living, and lots of different times my expectations had been kind of let down. And I've kind of let myself down. I got into this house and it was a little bit rough for me at first. I did something much different than normal. I didn't go through treatment. My excuse at the time was that I kind of, I had been through treatment so many times before, I'd learned all that I needed to learn. And I was really fortunate in the way that things planned out because I had no intentions of kind of getting stabilized before I was trying to jump 2 steps ahead, right? And when I got into Serenity, I got linked up with management here and kind of got the whole get down, figured out that everybody at the home was on some form of MOUD, whether that be methadone or Suboxone. So immediately I was really kind of relieved that, I was going through this experience with other people doing the same thing, right? I felt comforted in the fact that, I felt like, hey, if there's any place that a heroin addict needs to be, it's here, right? And I got linked into intensive IOP, which I've done many times before. Started off with IOP, was doing that, I think 3 days a week, was going to meetings, and I already had recovery experience, so I kind of already knew what I personally wanted to get into, which was HA. So I got heavily involved into HA, and that's Heroin Anonymous. And I trying to think back here. The one thing that happens for chronic relapsers is to get kind of beaten down to the point of where it's like there's no hope. And I quickly realized that I was in a very, very lucky circumstance and situation because I had a lot of support available to me at my fingertips, at my disposal. I had, for the first time, gotten into a residence where I didn't really have to do anything except focus on my recovery. I didn't have to worry about bills. I didn't have to worry about not having a car, although it was difficult. I figured out my way around, and I also had my recovery coach that could help me out with a bus pass if needed, single day pass, until I could kind of find my own way, get employed. And so that's what I did. I just focused on my recovery. I got really heavily involved in HA. I got commitments right away. I was running meetings. I was part of the HA events committee. So what the HA events committee was is kind of outside of meetings on the weekends, things like that. We would set up organization and events to look forward to in the future, like recovery dance or something like that. And that was really helpful because it gave me a sense of kind of community. And I was really trying to get other people that were in the house involved with me as well. So I got really involved with HA. I went through IOP. I finished IOP. And after that, I kind of just shifted focus and was like, all right, well, I'm doing well in my recovery. I'm progressing through the steps. I've got commitments and meetings. I've kind of got a schedule down. And also at that same period, there was other people in the house that were starting to attend HA meetings with me, which was helpful because it gave that sense of kind of community. And started working. I didn't have the current job that I have now, but I was working for a friend doing a little bit of labor work stuff that I've done in the past just to make ends meet and focus on getting my life back together. So taking care of license, finding transportation. I purchased my first vehicle. I got like a little scooter that got me to and from my next job, which at about 6 months of sobriety, I had got a job for Integral Care, which is a local how do I explain this? It's a crisis respite center, mainly for people that are coming off the streets from homelessness, which is something that I was very familiar with. My addiction took me to homelessness. It took me to prison. It took me to federal prison. And I wanted to be able to give back to that and also help other addicts. So I was able to live in a house while working in recovery, and I kept moving forward. And meanwhile, during that time, trying to think on specifics here as far as like in the household, one of the other things that was beneficial in the house is there was these community events that we went to. So not only was I doing my own personal community events that I was setting up through HA, the house was doing community events where we would do things like bowling or just have community meetings once a month. And there was that community sense there. So now it's like, okay, it's not just my house of other opioid addicts that are all on medication, right? Now I have this other house of opioid addicts that are all on medication that are going through the same kind of journey. And then there's the two women's house. So we got to kind of expand that. So now this sense of community is growing, right? And one of the things that I want to mention too is so I had been on MAT many times before, and I, you know, when I started MAT or MOUD the first time when I was 17. So my attempts at recovery when I was on MOUD, I wasn't honest with my sponsor. I wasn't honest with my peers in those meetings, like even in HA, you know, even in Heroin Anonymous, like I couldn't tell other people that I was on Suboxone. I met with my sponsor at the beginning portion where we're going through step works. I said, hey, listen, I need you to know I'm at this place. This is the things that I'm doing here. I am on Suboxone. Is this going to be okay for you to sponsor me? And he said, absolutely. You know, as long as, you know, his stipulation, which everybody has their own stipulations, is he wanted to make sure that at some point, undetermined date, that I would continue my sobriety without the use of the medication. So of course, yeah, I don't plan on being this on this for the rest of my life, which is, just my own personal experience. Some people that may be beneficial. But for me, that isn't what I wanted to do. But for now, definitely what I wanted to do. So my sponsor was okay with that. When I'd go to meetings, I was very open about what my recovery looked like. I didn't want to keep anything a secret, right? And so I've been very vocal about everything, about my personal business, not about others, but about my experience. And I've kind of over through the past year and a half, almost coming up, God willing, I have kind of made a name through myself and others that have been going through this meeting. We're known as like the Austin Serenity guys. We're not known as the guys that are on MOUD or MOUD. That is been really, nobody's ever questioned my sobriety. Nobody's ever, they don't even remember, even though I've been very vocal about that. So this is one of the points that I wanted to bring up, because this was something that I realized that now that I kind of internally struggled with, rather than it actually being a provoked kind of problem, right? But to that same note, the fact that I've been able to be so vocal about it and still not receive any of that kind of like questioning on it has been really helpful. So I'm sorry, I'm all over the place on this story, but I'm trying to make sure that I don't miss certain like kind of bullet points, important annotations in this story. So, I continued on. I got this job at Integral Care. I'm working as a peer support specialist. I'm living in the house. I'm finished with IOP. I'm continuing on in my recovery, working through the steps. I just really, kind of was motivated to get things done that I had previously never been able to do. Financial problems have been one of the reasons that I've allowed myself to be taken out on in the past. I've gotten 2 previous attempts at over a year of sobriety. I'm currently at about a year and 5 months, which is the longest that I have ever been sober for. And one of the things that I feel has been really difficult for me to get through on the past is take care of all, credit card debts, make sure that I have a car, a license, just normal adult life things that I've just never been able to get over that kind of hump. I've been able to do in while I've been here, because of me being able to be hyper focused on progressing instead of worrying or taking care of multiple different bills. I've really been able to financially succeed and save because of my current predicament, and not having to worry about the financials. So I've gotten licensed, gotten a scooter, took the scooter to work for many months until I was able to buy a car, pay for my own insurance, pay for a phone bill, everything. First time in my life, 33 years old, and fully financially independent, taking care of all court things, previous court things, gotten a car, gotten through all 12 steps, been able to focus to help other people go through this kind of similar journey and path. Right about, I would say, the year mark is when I transitioned into house management. So I became the house manager in the very same house that I kind of grew up and learned my recovery and went through all those struggles. And it was a great feeling of success, and just, I really want to emphasize that the only thing that I did is just I followed the rules. I kind of kept my head down, and stood out of things that didn't pertain to me, and tried to be assistful and helpful in things that did pertain to me. I was goal oriented, and I knew the things through my previous attempts before of what I needed to do in order to get sober and stay sober, and work on myself. Um and I have to say that if I mean it's it's been it's hard to say, like, if I were anywhere else, would I have been able to uh stay sober as long as I have, and have all the things that I have? Probably not as fast or as quickly as I've been. Maybe I could have, but I have to say it's been a lot easier when I've had other people on this singular journey, had the reduction of stigma, reduced, been able to, like, really build on a foundation and community through that process, and just had friends, and um through that process, this was really, really been helpful. Um, so I don't know, I've been working as house manager here for the past 6 months, and I've had a team of individuals that have all also been through the house as a resident, which is something that I think has created this kind of miracle type circumstance and situation that has really allowed it to be as successful as it is today, because I think that there is so much heart that is involved in the creation of something and being through the process of something, and all the hurt of previous failed attempts, not wanting anyone to have to go through um, some of those bad experiences has really been helpful, and having a team that just kind of knows what works, what doesn't work, and being able to bounce ideas off of each other has been really successful. Having accountability put in place, med counts, meeting sheets at the end of the week, kind of instilling rules and policies into the residents that are very particular, like not discussing what kind of medications that you are on. I'm not going to go on to a debate on whether Suboxone is better than methadone, or that Sublocade is better than Suboxone. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that we're all trying to become spiritually fit, and progress in our journey, and better ourselves from what we were previously when we were in our disease. And those things have been really hugely beneficial in the reduction of relapse, the reduction of stealing, or med sharing, or anything like that. I have to say that out of all the places that I have been through or managed, and I've worked in treatment a few times previously as well, I've seen the least amount of relapses comparatively, to other sober livings that I've been through, which almost kind of goes against what I would think about people that are being on medications that are narcotic. But the thing is you're taking the medications as prescribed, which is something that I really don't think that I did all too well previously when I was on MOUD or MAT. It gets to a point where it just kind of becomes natural, like taking, a glass of water. I don't have any difference of effect of whether like what it was like when I was first taking the medication in the beginning. It was a little bit of an adjustment period, and now it's kind of very normalized. There's no ups or downs. It's just baseline, right? Let's see here. So yeah, I mean, you know, I've went through this journey, have had the opportunity to kind of now take my experience of what I learned on my personal journey and try to push what worked for me on to other people. And that's been really effective because I'm not going to ask any of my residents to do anything that I didn't do personally. And I think that we've also been able to kind of rule out any kinks in any of the protocols or procedures that we had previously, and kind of finalized on those things through the experience of this this program through its infancy and until now. And it's been really great. I have a great team behind me, and you know, I think Brian, you want to go off and kind of share what that process has been on the Austin Serenity?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, I just want to say that you've been one of our biggest turnarounds since the beginning. I've seen you come through the program with day one. So that was it's been a really great experience to watch you grow and become the person that you are today. You know, it's a big difference from 18 months ago. I was one of the first residents here at Austin Serenity from 2021. I started out as a resident, and I worked my way up to house manager after a year, and then I've been program director now since August of last year. I think that there's been a little bit of a learning curve since we started. You know, when I first got here, things have changed a lot from the very beginning to where we are now. We've learned from our mistakes. And I feel like what we've really tried to promote here is social model within our homes, trying to make sure that everyone feels safe in our homes, and that everyone gets involved. You know, with like our house meetings that we have every single week, we make those mandatory, like no exceptions. Everybody has to be there. You know, everyone under one roof, and making sure that we go over house business, checking to make sure how many meetings people are going to, how many hours did they work each week, did they get a sponsor, did they meet with their sponsor, are they going to, are they making their meetings in person, or are they just doing them on Zoom? Because we also have to make sure that they go to at least 2 in person, and they can do 1 Zoom. I think that making sure that we're holding them accountable, but we're also giving them, room for self-improvement, I think, and following up with making sure that, I think one thing to talk about is med counts. I think that, we've spoken about, because in the beginning it was kind of, everyone had their medication just locked up in their lock boxes, and then there was the issue of I think one lockbox got stolen like back in 2021 before I was in charge, and so ever since then we've had cables that connect them to the bed, so that they would have to take apart the bed if they're going to try and walk away with their medications, and doing med counts to make sure, because I think it's important to make sure that these guys are taking their medication as prescribed, that they're not overtaking it. And so we have the policies and med counts that we do each week on each resident to make sure that they're taking their medication as they said they are. So if they said they're only supposed to have 42 left and they've got 20, 10, that's not, they're not taking their medication as prescribed. And so that has been a big, way to keep guys accountable and to make sure that they're actually taking it. There's been very few cases that we've had where guys have overtaken their MAT. I think that finding sponsors that are on MAT friendly is very essential. I think that here in Austin, Austin Serenity has created a very destigmatized version of what MOUD looks like in the recovery environment. We have 2 men's houses, 2 women's houses. There's like 32 of us in the community at any given time going to meetings at different various clubhouses. And so we've kind of built up a good reputation now of, the Austin Serenity guys, and so I think that that's been very helpful, and that, that we've had guys that have been through this program, and several people who have worked their way up to management, female residents as well, and they are proving that this does work. I can attest for myself, I'm still on MAT. And I plan on being on it for probably another year or so. I haven't really decided. That's kind of, something that I'm going to speak with my doctor about probably within the next year or two. But it's working. So I'm not, if it's not broke, don't change it, right? House managers on MAT, I think, is something that we have implemented. At the beginning, there was, management that wasn't on MAT, and I think that finding our house managers organically, by having them go through the program and having a year of sobriety and living in the house and building up a reputation and respect amongst the residents who are already there, and they see that growth, I feel like that has been a very good procedure that we put into place. Also when, say when a resident comes in, the first things we do is we require ROIs for their whoever their provider is for their medication. So whoever it is, they're getting their med. Most of the guys go to the local spot. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name, but we make sure that we have a ROI with the providers to make sure that they are taking their medication as prescribed. So if we see like over medicated residents, we can speak with their doctor and say, hey, this guy's his methadone, he's coming home every morning and he's kind of obviously not, I would say he's obviously over medicated. So we would be able to speak with their doctor about that, and they can, lower their dose or, figure out a situation in order to remedy that, because that hasn't happened honestly very often. So that's one of those things. I think we've only had like three or four instances of that over the last 2 years since I've been here. And so, house managers on MAT, I think that's a real thing to really require those ROIs with doctors so to make sure they're not over medicated. Making sure, and then one other thing that we've done is we've preferably have residents that come in from a 30-day inpatient treatment center so that they're stable. What we do require is that they're stable on their MAT for 30 days upon entry. However they do that in a treatment center, or if they do that through their intensive outpatient program, which doesn't happen very often, but 95% of the residents that come in here are coming directly from treatment providers here. 30-day inpatient, 60-day inpatient, some 90-day patient treatment centers. And I think building relationships with those case managers has been essential in keeping our residents coming here. Let's see. What else I want to talk about? Oh, and also MARA meetings. I think that's something to speak about, is the Medication Assisted Recovery Anonymous. That's something, because we don't require our residents. That's one of our policies, is that we don't require our residents to, only do a 12-step, meeting AA. If they come here, they're not required to do AA, but 95% of the people who come here end up doing HA, which is Heroin Anonymous, because this is an OUD, project for research. So almost, everybody here has, usually either been, fentanyl or mostly heroin. And so, we take the residents to 3 meetings a week, the men's houses, and we all carpool together. We make sure that they have a place that they can go to, find a sponsor and see the recovery in the community and get their names out there to, and be able to speak about, their recovery experiences. And making sure that they don't have to, they can do MARA, they can do AA, they can do HA, they can do Narcotics Anonymous, they can do Smart Recovery, they can do Celebrate Recovery. It's whatever program they want to do, but we require them to work some type of program. It just has to be something, and making sure that they don't feel that like they have to do AA. Or that they have to do Narcotics Anonymous, or whatever it is that they want to work. But as I did Refuge when I first got here, I dabbled with that while I was working Heroin Anonymous back in 2021, just because I wanted to see what it was all about. And let's see, accountability with IOP. So the other things that we do, and I think one of our biggest policies that we have in place that we require our residents to maintain, is that on a weekly basis, they have to be either within the 30 days, they have to find a job, or if they're not going to find a job, then they have to be in school, and it has to be 25 hours per week. If they're tethered to an intensive outpatient program, which most of them are when they come out of treatment, then that counts for those first 2 months that they're here, and they usually end up to get their other hours for the 25 per week. We have them volunteer up at our coffee bar, local clubhouse, HA and NA meetings, so that they can, get more integrated into the community. making sure that they're doing their 3 in-person meetings per week, making sure that they have sponsors, and really holding them accountable to making sure that they are working some type of recovery program is essential to, basically their success in the long term. And I can tell you right now that I've been here since basically I was the first person in this house. Our men's houses are right next door to each other, and they how do I say this? A lot of the guys that have come through here, they start out working. They might start working 12 steps, and by the end of maybe 1 year, they'll usually have gone through all 12 steps. And if they're working AA, which is a lot of them end up doing, which HA, but they use the same book. And we've had a lot of success with this. I've seen guys grow. My assistant house manager here at my house, he's been here since October of 2021. So, he's worked his way all the way up from basically being working at U-Haul. Now he's the store manager of his, with a, yearly salary. We've had guys that are working Muslim-based programs. So it is a very big dynamic of guys that are working different programs, but they all work together in unison to help each other to move forward and to change their lives, because that's what this is all about, is getting them prepared for walking out this door successfully. And we do our best to try and do that. We have life skills that we implement, where we have nutrition every month, and I do budgeting with the residents to try and help them with their finances. And then Danielle does resume building, where they try to help them with any type of resumes that they might be trying to build, and interview questions, common interview questions, things like that, how to answer. And wow, we're out of time. I didn't realize that. So Mike,
Yeah,
I guess
I'll just say, no, y'all were, both of y'all did such an amazing job, and I didn't want to stop because it was so much good information. I know we're getting to the bottom of the hour. If some people need to leave, don't worry. I am recording this, and I'll make sure that you get a link to the video so that you can listen to anything that you miss. To the extent that our speakers can stay on, I know that there was some Q&A, or Mike, did you have any final thoughts?
Sure. So just Brandon, Bryan, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Sincerely, thank you. It was great. I just kind of want to provide a little bit more context onto some of their comments that I think are really important. One is we've been blessed with this funding to offer housing at no cost, excluding food. So folks do have to provide their own food, but a lot of our houses have gotten very creative in how they handle that. And it varies from house to house, but you also see situations where folks acknowledge that when someone comes in, they may not have a lot of resources, and so there's sharing of resources oftentimes among members of the homes. And then folks often will tap into the local food banks, et cetera, to have a cupboard of resources for folks. But I think not having folks pay for housing right away, we don't really have a comparison group on that one, because everyone in our house gets free housing. But I tell you guys, in our stories, what Brandon talked about has had a huge impact. And so if there's one thing that we could advocate for at the policy level, I would say one of those things would be to institutionalize the cost of housing, so that folks who don't have the resources to walk in and pay $800, $1,000, whatever it is that you might normally charge a month, that they have the resources to still, or the ability to still access housing is huge. It's tremendous. I think that financial support that the state is providing is tremendous.
Really,
the other thing I wanted to say is that, just reiterating what the guy said, having staff on MAR, I think it is tremendously important, or on MOUD rather. And then also just touching base on what Bryan said, we've had over 300 people go through our home so far. Obviously, not every one of those 300 has made it to my magical 6-month mark. But I will say that among those 300 plus folks that have gone through our 14 houses, we have less than a 5% diversion rate. And so if you are worried about that, let it go. Just let it go. It's really a non-issue. We have not seen that be an issue in our homes. Is there zero? No, there's not zero, but it is so incredibly low. And once you put in place a good diversion policy, like what Bryan talked about, it seems to resolve itself. The other thing I'll say is, yes, you want accountability in your policies, but you need to really think and make sure those policies are non-stigmatizing to people on MOUD. And so this becomes particularly true in a mixed house. And so, Cyrus, I want to get at your question. So a couple of things, in my opinion, about a mixed house, right? And Dr. Gallardo, please jump in at any time. Or Jeffrey, I see Jeffrey on the call. Jeffrey is managing one of our Houston homes. Jeffrey, feel free to jump in and share your wisdom too. But when you think about, we do have a couple of homes that are mixed. And you'll hear stories, the story I'm fixing to reiterate has not happened in our houses, but it's a story of someone who lived in a previous house, right? They were on MOUD, and they were in a house and they had to do a pill count in front of all of the other residents. Incredibly stigmatizing, right? Imagine being called out like that. So the person who was doing that, I gotta believe, was not doing that policy in a way to stigmatize the person who was on MOUD. I just don't think they thought about it, right? So think about your policies and the way you implement them. Think about stigma and a way to do things in a way that's confidential. No one needs to know what medication someone's on, right? So these things need to happen in a way that's confidential. You hear stories about, like what Bryan talked about, where everyone manages their own meds with a lockbox. You have other situations in some of our other houses where they have a closet that's locked in the house manager's office. And when someone needs their meds, the house manager just unlocks the door. The person grabs their basket, if you will, with their medications. They take their meds and put their basket back away, and the door's relocked, right? There's varieties of ways to manage medications in a way that still complies with NAR standards. And Colin, if you have questions about that, is an expert on helping you ensure that you stay compliant with NAR while also doing policies that are diversion, reduce diversion, and eliminate stigma. Cyrus, you asked a question about how do you handle a situation in which has an issue with another resident on MOUD, right? We've heard those stories, right? We do have a couple of mixed homes. And I would say the best solution that I've heard so far has come out of our San Angelo homes, which are mixed. And are you guys hearing me okay? I'm in a hotel and I'm getting an unstable connection. Can y'all still hear me? Okay, great. So our San Angelo home early on had some of these challenges, and the way they dealt with it was through the house meetings, right? The person in the home had a couple of persons in the home who were on MOUD disclosed that they were on MOUD, and another resident raised concerns about that. And so they just brought it to a house meeting and said, let's talk openly about this, right? And they had a good safe space where they could have that conversation, and it was resolved. And really, it just required a little bit of education and a rethinking about what does it mean to be abstinent. And each of us has our own private recovery journey, right? And we have to do what's best for our recovery journey. And it worked out really well. And San Angelo has this vibrant mixed home community. I'm not saying that every environment works well in a mixed home situation. I personally believe strongly in an all MOUD house. I see real value in that, but I also see that a mixed house could work as long as you have really good destigmatizing policies in place. And I think we need to do a little more work and understanding of what those policies need to be to make sure that everyone is included, right? One of the things that Bryan said that I thought was so important is that they work hard at Serenity to make everyone feel safe.
Mike, I'm
And I
afraid
think that that is so making our residents feel safe because thrive. If we see a home where some issues, right? And so talks about the importance of creating a safe space, right?
yeah, no, you were cutting in and out, but I think we were able to catch that. The focus was the importance of creating that safe space. Yeah. But well, one of the things that I wanted to acknowledge, y'all, early on when the government, we'll just call it out, when the government really wanted recovery homes to accept persons on MOUD, MAT, I got to get hip with the kids and use the right acronym, is really in a forceful way and throwing research studies. And that's not how the recovery community culturally learns things. The way that we culturally learn things is through story and seeing residents grow to leadership positions and leaders in the community. And I think we heard that today in both Brandon and Bryan. So I really appreciate y'all sharing your story, because I think that is what's going to make the difference and really have people understand that this can work and how it can work.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that.
Well, I know that we're over a little time. Is there any other burning question from anybody before we leave? If not, rather than going back to my summary slides, I'll just let you know and also send a follow-up email with everybody. We've got some other events that you may be interested in. We've got Recovery Day at the Capitol, which will be held on April 5th in Austin, Texas. So if you are interested in coming to the state capitol and advocating for recovery housing or prevention and treatment services, you can register for that event. There's also some fair housing trainings. It's a series on fair housing. I know many of y'all have recovery homes have faced fair housing discrimination from your respective cities. And so we really want to empower you with the knowledge of how to defend your civil rights, your fair housing rights. And then next month, same bat channel, same bat time. That probably just aged me because that was a saying from a TV show in the 60s and 70s. So anyway, so the fourth Monday of the month, we always have the statewide recovery housing meeting at noon. And the next topic we'll be talking about, I think there's 5 different legislative bills right now that could impact recovery housing. So let's learn, what are those and how to prepare for that. So, all right. Any other announcements or final words? Hearing none, I really want to thank all the speakers for today. I really want to thank everybody who attended today. And your interest in recovery housing, and in particular, MAT recovery housing. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for letting us speak. We appreciate that.
You're very welcome.